G'day folks, welcome to this overview of the new edition of Die Macher by Spielworxx and Stronghold Games. Now, since I first played this many years ago, I rated it a 10 out of 10 and it has remained one of the few 10 out of 10 games in my collection. It is a highly engaging 5-player game. There is so much to think about. The kind of logical pieces of this puzzle that come together around this board and with your party platform and program. The healthy degree of interaction between players. It is not quite a take that game, but it's a game where you're often looking at what everyone else is doing, trying to work with and against other people, whilst also managing, again, your own party, platform and media, and your kind of current election cycle. As I said, 10 out of 10. It is one of my favourite games at all time, and I have just received in the post this nice new edition. So, in a moment, I'll be opening this up. But first, let's look back over the history of Die Macher. If you go to BoardGameGeek and you type in BoardGame/1, the very first game entered on BoardGameGeek is Die Macher. That original version of Die Macher, in fact, that was published back in 1986 by Hans im Glück and Mosquito Spiel. About a decade later, 1997, they published the more popular German-only second edition, and that's the copy that many people were playing in the late 1990s, early 2000s. It looks a little bit like this. This is not actually from the original game. This is the art from the game that I've mocked up to get that original feel. I've just mounted this on cardboard. Not much has changed in 30 odd years, 20, 30 years. You can see the various parties and their favour, their place where their meeting markers go. I'll contrast this with the new one in a moment. And you can see their vote tally around the board. This is the national board where you place all the tokens and national issues and so forth. And then in 2006, Valley Games published their multilingual edition of Die Macher. And it remained much the same in terms of the general outline layout of the boards. Again, you can see just to contrast the two, the party area, the party favour, much the same, the meeting markers, the vote tally, again going up to 50, the place for the local issues, alliances, media markers up the top there. A slight rearrangement of these where they go, but much the same. The biggest issue I had, the reason I created my alternative, I didn't like the layout of the issues in this game. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So these are an example of 3 of the issues in the game, which your party can be either for or against. And when they're in front of you, it's pretty clear. When they're on the other side of the board or in front of another person, it can be hard to, let me show you what I'm talking about, distinguish between the 3 icons. What is that one? What is that one? Are they 3 different issues and so forth? It's just very unclear. And for this reason, I kind of made up my own cards. Living in Australia and playing with Australian friends who weren't overly interested in German politics, we made up our own Australian version with Australian issues. Then, in 2019, Spielworxx, in association with Stronghold Games, developed the Kickstarter for their latest edition. Let's open this up and see what it's like. So it's about the same weight. I'm not going to weigh this, but it's about the same as the Valley Games edition, a slightly bigger box. And looking inside, we can see the familiar wooden components. They look like the meeting markers that each party will have. These are various scoring and tracking markers. This has been, I've already seen, quite broadly criticised. This is the currency in the game. Now, a lot of people don't like that this is basically paper money that comes in a deck like this. Yes, it's frustrating, but personally, I have always used my own little poker chips when playing Die Macher. So I probably won't use these. These will remain in the box untouched. We have 3 decks Now, let's have a look through these. This is the critical thing for me because, as I said, my main issue with the Valley Games edition was the obscure and vague art. So I'm going to crack these open and we'll take a look at that. Okay, so these appear to be the art on the issues. I don't know what these are exactly. We'll get to the rulebook in a moment. So you can see the plus or the minus, the white background or the dark background. Again, it always could be clearer. I'd like a big green mark and a big red mark to show for or against. The grayscale isn't particularly clear. Maybe computer literacy. I think this was genetic engineering, the square tomatoes from the old edition. I've only got one square tomato there. Hopefully, here they are. There's some more in there. Surveillance, perhaps state surveillance, for or against. This looks like it's state welfare. I'm guessing. Perhaps environmental concerns, pollution and mass transport, perhaps for or against. Do you like pollution or are you against it? And they look like part of the next deck. So that's a little bit clearer than, let me just contrast and get the Valley Games edition. So that's a little bit clearer than these. Although let me see. Yeah, they're all the same. So this is slightly different art. I'm not sure which ones are for the party platform and which ones are for the election. You can see the differences there. Again, this could have been clearer. I'm thinking this is party platform, party leader, and this looks like it's the local issue within one election at a time. I did like the old system of Valley Games where they had the 4 icons just to distinguish between party and election. But these are the party meeting. Oh, this looks like the starting party meeting markers, sorry. And then somewhere in here, these are, I believe, the opinion polls. So the idea is you bid on these, and it looks like on the back side you get a bit of a hint as to what the poll will reveal. So it's of greater interest to the yellow party, and then you reveal it and it shows you what you were hinted at, plus 4 others. Basically this means that you move the party favour for these 5 parties up or down. And from memory, I think you could choose one. It's been a while. These are the various election cards. They seem to be a bit out of order. There's the other opinion polls and the other elections in various regions or electorates of Germany. Okay, let's open the rules and the boards and see what they look like. Okay, nice, thick, glossy, well-illustrated rulebook. Fairly brief, 15 pages. That will hopefully draw more people to what has long been seen as quite a heavy and scary game. We have some nice cardboard playouts with a clear sequence of play. Again, this will make the game so much easier. I mean, I used to print these off with my old edition, but this just runs through the steps. It's a very sequential game. You run through each step one at a time, and they sort of subtly interact. It's grasping the nature of those interactions, which is what makes the game hard. Then it looks like here we have the perhaps decks for the various issues. A doubler. I don't know what those are. And this looks like a space to hold those opinion polls. Some German player aids. And here we have the big election board. So it's much bigger than the Valley Games edition. You can see there, about 20% larger. More space, it's more spread out. The votes only go to 49 for some reason. Space for the local election issues, media markers along the right there. This might be for a coalition marker or something else. And there are, of course, 4 of those in the box. And then don't know what these are. Looks like there's something particular to the new version. This might be sort of taking the place of the national board. Previously there was a large national board in the previous editions, which was like this, which showed, I think, party membership, who won the elections and so forth. And this looks like it's taken the place. So yeah, 7 rounds, party membership. And this might be the national platform, which varies by play count. So there you go. That is the latest edition of Die Macher by Spielworxx. Also, I believe, being published in the same form by Stronghold Games. Released in 2019, but just being sent out to Kickstarter backers now. So in addition to those component differences, there are also quite a few minor rules changes between the editions. As you saw, there was no national board there. On the state board, there's a limit of 8 meetings per party. The state board popularity goes up to 4, +4 instead of +3 in previous editions. The public opinion poll is now a draw river rather than just a card river, rather than just a single draw deck. The way you manage your public opinion hand has changed slightly. You draft 4 cards from 7. It's a slightly different system there. So buying media markers now costs €5,000 instead of €4,000 per marker. When you don't publish opinion polls, you simply get +3 party membership rather than rolling a dice for this, as in previous editions. So that provides a bit more certainty if you decide not to publish those opinion polls. A few other minor changes with regards to converting meeting markers into votes and determining seats, and slightly different rewards for deciding the election winner in the current election, the way coalitions work and so forth. So there are quite a few, I haven't gone through them all in detail, but quite a few of these very subtle changes in the way things work. Because you're being paid out each round, you'll probably have, I imagine, more money, but things are slightly more expensive. So there's more stability in your income, and you can probably spend it more freely each round rather than sort of being a bit uncertain on the 2nd and 4th round. As I said, Die Macher has long been one of my absolute favourite 4 or 5 player games. It's very satisfying in that sort of logical connecting of pieces and media markers and votes and alignment and so forth. It's remained a 10 out of 10 for a very long time, and I can't imagine these changes to the rules changing that and my enjoyment of the game. Thus, I highly recommend, if you get a chance, check out Die Macher by Spielworxx or Stronghold Games.